Hello, welcome to Lightcast webinar. It's great to have you with us today. The sun is shining here, so hopefully it is with you too. We have with us Carla Hoff and William Cookson, both from Lightcast, experts in their field. During the course of the webinar, if you have any questions, please put them in the questions box on the control panel, and we will endeavour to get to those at the end of the presentation. If we don't, then we will follow up afterwards. And on the note of follow-up, we do send out a follow-up email which contains your recording and your slides from today's presentation. So please keep your eyes open for that. So without any further ado, I will hand over to you, Will. Hi, Will.
Hi, Debbie. And I'm going to introduce Carla. He's going to do the first part of the webinar today, but I will be making an appearance at the appropriate time. Carla, over to you.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us in what I imagine is probably the start of your summer holidays. So, nice to have you on the webinar with us this morning. So Will and I are going to run you through probably half an hour, just a bit of an overview of what we've been doing with some clients in the multiply space. And how you guys might be able to make use of labour market data to support future funding bids around the Multiply programme, and maybe how this can translate into other things and other agendas. First of all, what I will do is give you a bit of an overview of who we are and what we do for those of you who are new to us. Always a bit of a reminder for those of you who know who we are, but Lightcast, so it's our mission at Lightcast to unlock new possibilities in the labour market. So we know it can be a confusing, complex, fast-moving space, but understanding what drives your region's growth is foundational to helping individuals and communities thrive. So what we're really about and what we aim to do is to take that guesswork out of the labour market so that you, your colleagues and the communities that you can serve can make more informed, data-driven decisions. We work with a whole range of sectors, so whether that's related to curriculum alignment, employer engagement, business support, or in that kind of careers advice and guidance space, we've got data to help support our clients in the communities and government space, the education space, and the talent sectors across the UK and beyond. So how do we do that then? I'll give you a bit of an overview of the data. So when we talk about labour market data at Lightcast, we are predominantly referring to two main types of data. So we've got structural labour market data and big data. That structural data is made up of a whole host of official government sources. So most of you will be most familiar with data sets such as ONS, and these really form the building blocks of our solutions and help us understand the labour market in terms of what we call industries and occupations and how they change over time. So this is the structural LMI. It kind of gives us the building blocks of those local labour markets and helps us look at kind of trends going back to 2003 and project up to 2031 at present. On the other hand, we've got big data, or job postings data as we call it more often, and this really sense checks those projections. So it gives us a much more detailed real-time view of what employers are actually seeking, mainly through recruitment activity, and this is in the language of job titles and skills. So you've got a really nice hybrid of data there. So your SIC and your SOC code, your industries and your occupations, and then your job postings and your skills. And this is really critical in helping us unpick what's going on in local labour markets at a kind of regional, national level, and it's what sets Lightcast apart from any other data provider out there. Little bit about how we package that. So range of different solutions. We've got user-friendly software, we have custom consulting solutions, and then a range of kind of API and Snowflake solutions that support our customers to make the more informed decisions relating to the work that they do. So we will get to the topic of today, so multiply. Give you a little bit of a kind of potted history. I'm sure that the fact that many of you are here, you've got a good understanding of what it is really, but a government-funded programme recently introduced to predominantly help adults improve their numeracy skills. So there's a big chunk of money, 560 million just underneath over the next 3 years of funding through the UK SPF, so the Shared Prosperity Fund. This is available for adults 19 plus who don't currently have a grade C or equivalent in Maths GCSE. And really, local and combined authorities signed up to multiply and submitted investment plans last summer. Lots of charities, kind of community interest groups, private companies, local authorities have all been allocated that funding now. There was an initial requirement to spend it this financial year, but that's been extended to the end of next financial year. And yeah, it's kind of this big pot of money that allows individuals to do free online courses with providers who are running those courses, or employers to boost their workforce's skills by working with one of those local authorities or training providers to deliver bespoke programs for their workforce at no cost to them. So I'm going to hand you over to Will, who's going to give us a really nice case study of where this work started for us and how we've started to support a particular client in this space in supporting bids and tenders and securing that funding.
Thanks, Carla. Yes, so the example I wanted to talk about is some work based on some work that we did with Thames Valley Berkshire Local Enterprise Partnership. They're a long-standing customer with us. I think they've been with us since 2015, used our software, but this basically came out the back of a number of sector fact sheets that we created, which were designed to help their stakeholders and provider base look at the supply and demand of education and employer demand for a number of sectors, so like the creative sector, construction, and so on. Then Multiply was announced as an initiative, policy initiative, and they wanted to apply the same approach. So really simple to understand fact sheet, but looking at basic numeracy skills. So the aim of the project was to identify labour market demand for basic numeracy skills within the Thames Valley, Berkshire, LEP area. To do that, we had to take a slightly different approach to the one that we'd taken with the sector sheets. The sector sheets, we primarily use job postings and supply side information from Department for Education, which we model and match against our structural data to look at growth by occupation. To look at basic numeracy skills, we took the US-based ONET program. Now, ONET is essentially a skills taxonomy. It looks at the knowledge, skills, and experience aligned to an occupation. And what we've done is we've taken the ONET skills taxonomy and we've matched that across to UK standard occupation classifications at a 4-digit level. So we can see how similar different occupations are. And more importantly, in this instance, we can look at the importance of numeracy and maths for each occupation within the UK at that granular level. So it allows us to describe how important mathematics is within each occupation. And so we applied that methodology to a range of occupations, basically to draw out occupations where they required a basic maths skills. And that gave us a list of 61 4-digit UK standard occupation classification occupations. And that was the purpose of this which is obviously important to state, was it was to inform bids for the multiplier scheme. So it was really to demonstrate the need across the geography to an importance of improving basic math skills for those two groups that we've talked about previously. Those will be adults that don't have the equivalent of a grade C GCSE. It's obviously a numerical number now, not a grade C, but the equivalent of a pass in maths at GCSE level for adults, but then also for employees of employers to help with productivity. This is what it looked like. So these were simple, easy to understand. The remit was that it had to be easily understood by a broad range of broad audience, really, because this would go and be shared with training providers. It would obviously be shared with prospective funders in terms of the multiplier initiative, but it was also about getting that shared understanding of the importance of basic numeracy skills across the geography. And so what we did here, and you can see we've got the total jobs requiring basic math skills over the past decade to see whether there is growth there. Obviously, overall, if you look between that 2012 and 2021, there is that peak in 2018. So that's using structural data up there in the top right hand side. Bottom left, we go to big data in the form of job postings, and we look at that growth in demand. And this is obviously looking at where basic math skills has jobs associated with occupations that require basic math skills and how those are trending on a year-by-year basis. And then we look at the split across the geography in the past year by local authority. And you can see there the highest demand, probably unsurprisingly, is in Reading, which is the biggest conurbation of people, but a good distribution across all of the geography in terms of that demand for basic math skills, which we're pulling out from job postings. In the next slide, you'll see what we did is we looked at each one of those local authority areas, and we pulled out headline measures, top 15 companies recruiting for roles requiring basic skills. Again, unsurprisingly, NHS, which often comes out the top as the top company in terms of recruitment activity and recruits for a broad range of occupations, is there at the top. And obviously what we're doing here is we're separating out employers from recruitment agencies as well, which is something we often advise our customers to do if they want to get to who the companies are that are recruiting. Then we've got top 10 job openings for roles requiring basic math skills, labourers, credit controllers, cleaners, really broad range of occupations, many of them having entry-level type roles as well, which demonstrates that need for basic math skills or numeracy across really wide range of occupations. Then we've got the top 10 occupations recruiting for roles requiring basic skills. So we've got job openings on the one side, which is on the right hand side at the top, which is using structural data. So those are new jobs being created that require basic numeracy skills. And then on the bottom left, we've got the job postings, which matches as well. We're seeing that whether we look at the structural data or the job postings, we're seeing that commonality there. And then we look at how different levels of numeracy skills between basic and intermediate can impact on salaries, which is really powerful as well. If you think of the opportunities for people in that area, in order of, in terms of employment opportunities, it shows that having intermediate math skills can open up jobs with a higher salary. And then on the next slide, I'm going to hand over to Carla. So what Carla's going to tell us about is how you can take that methodology if you already have access to our Analyst platform, and you can replicate that analysis.
Lovely, thanks, Will. Yeah, so obviously really good example of how to use that data in that fact sheet format. We're offering that still anyway. We know that it's kind of still a need just to be able to set out and kind of evidence demand for those types of skills and identify where they are within a region. So something that we can offer. Yeah, so just using that methodology that we've developed in that project to create those fact sheets, we now have that list of those 61 occupations by 4-digit SOC code that we know require those basic math skills. We can put those into a group in Analyst, which we've done to kind of replicate that type of fact sheet overview, but also just have a more in-depth overview of regional skills demands for basic numeracy skills. So kind of top left, we can see the SOC codes, kind of snapshot of those 61 occupations with the level of 25 or below, giving that kind of indicator of how important those skills are to the role and the entry-level basic maths that occupation requires. Upload these by SOC code into Analyst, and then what that allows us first of all to do is to basically pull off kind of national future projections. So I've just picked out the top 3 within a region. So again, still looking at that. I actually think I chose Leeds for this one. So within Leeds, out of that 61 occupation group, what are the fastest 3 occupations that require basic math skills set to grow over the next 3 years? So cleaners, domestics, bus drivers, and then we've got packers, bottlers, canners and fillers, all seeing good growth. And those occupations that are set to see the biggest decline, so the occupations that do require basic math skills that are not growing over the next 3 years, predominantly in security guards, air travel assistants and butchers. So this right away can help a local authority organisation or any organisation in this space begin to understand that regional skills needs, and gives them a good understanding of what occupations generally require basic maths and then how that's specific to the LEP region, the kind of local authority or county that they're in. So then you can use this data then to support key decisions on where to focus efforts, what priorities need to be set, and in one sector, in what sectors, and also start to think about curriculum design. So yeah, basic numeracy skills are basic numeracy skills, but is there a way that you can build a program that's more specific to construction operatives than it will be to credit controllers? So how can you make that content really relevant to your local skills needs by using this data? So next slide, please. Future projections really helpful, again, as a general measure of what those occupations are within the region, but it's probably more helpful to know what companies are currently looking to fill those roles. So where are those current skills gaps? So we've talked about the difference between structural data and the real-time or the big data, and in everything that we've shown you, you've had a really good overview of kind of both sides. Through mapping those SOC codes to job titles, then running job posting analytics reports, what Analyst can then give you is a live list of companies within a region who actively have positions to fill that require basic numeracy skills. So for anybody who's secured funding to deliver multiply programs and who's developed content, being able to identify a list of who's hiring, for example, it is really kind of a starting point for knowing who in the region has these skills needs and therefore might want to upskill existing workforce. So that's really crucial to successful delivery of multiply programs. Again, this is just a snapshot of the last month's worth of data in Leeds, looking at those top posted job titles and companies for that list of 61 occupation codes. We can also pull out associated and demand skills as well. So I think it's also really useful to just look at what goes alongside that need for basic math skills. So kind of housekeeping, credit control, invoicing, they're all skills that are closely linked and in demand in these top posted job titles. So I thought that was interesting to share as well. Next slide, please, Will. So just to finish off, I think we focused on supporting delivery for the Multiply initiative in the kind of previous slides, but I think the principles very much the same for other skills agendas, such as things like skills bootcamp, so the rollout and delivery of this. I thought it was just worth sharing some data that one of our clients has used recently to, first of all, secure that funding for delivery of a skills bootcamp. So being able to evidence demand for, this is for digital, so they want to run skills bootcamps in kind of data analytics and business analytics. So again, secure that funding. So where's the demand regionally? Where does that kind of sit predominantly within that local authority breakout, and what's the month-on-month demand? But also then just kind of focusing on the delivery of skills bootcamp programs, so identifying relevant job titles, speaking in that employer language, and then being able to develop a really kind of relevant curriculum that meets that employer demand within the region, and then having again that list of companies who are actively month on month seeking these types of people. It's kind of really good data just to be able to look at this on a monthly basis, engage with those local employers who are looking to fill those skills gaps, and think about offering them kind of upskilling of existing staff through skills bootcamp funding. So I'll hand you back to Will to kind of summarise and close, but yeah, I thought that was also useful to share on the skills bootcamp front.
Thanks, Carla. As you were talking through, I was also thinking about the work that the LSIPs are doing as well. This type of analysis of being able to understand, specifically, I suppose, in regards to understanding the demand from the employer base in regards to skills, bringing that back to conversations with the provider base. Obviously, Analyst is really, really helpful for that, and this type of methodology that we've taken here. The other thing just to say is that if anyone wants to replicate this type of analysis, we can provide them with the list of the, was it 61 4-digit occupations. So just drop us an email on the back of the email you get on the back of the webinar, and we can provide that for you, and then you can do the similar type of analysis if you want to look at that basic numeracy math skills in your area. So how is this all helpful? We've it is just a summary, but we've talked about some of this already. Targeting employer engagement. Obviously, the Multiply program requires the organisations involved to not just deliver basic numeracy skills to adults that need those skills, but also to target employers and to work with their employees, because obviously that has a positive benefit in terms of productivity, and also in terms of the ability for people to progress within their careers as well. We saw in the data that having those numeracy skills at an intermediate level suddenly boosts the ability to get a job with a higher salary, or that's what the data is showing us anyway. And then the second point here is obviously what Thames Valley Berkshire did was they were using the analysis that we carried out with them to influence the funding bid that they'd submitted. But then there's a broader use case in terms of influencing and steering stakeholders. And there are many stakeholders involved in this agenda. We've talked about employers, but then there's also the provider base as well, with independent training providers, FE colleges, higher education. Then you've got employability providers and local authorities, and the list goes on. So getting people to coalesce around a strong evidence base is really valuable in of itself. And then the final point here was in regards to, and we've mentioned this already, informing decision making around priorities. Which employers should we engage? Where is the greatest need in terms of which occupation should we be targeting for people that are employed, and so on and so forth. That's summary of where we think the value is. Do reach out if you've got particular questions that you wanted to raise. I do also need to mention that if you're interested in forthcoming webinars, we probably usually go a bit quiet over the summer, pick up in September, but do keep an eye on our website, and there you'll find, be able to search for and look at previous webinars as well. But watch that space, as they say. And then it was just to thank you all for joining us and wish you a great summer. And we'll be back in September.
Do we have any questions, Debbie? Comments?
No questions. If anyone does have questions, feel free to email us on the back of the email received on the back of this webinar. If there's any particular things that you need or want to discuss, do reach out. And if you're watching this at a later point in time, same thing applies. Just drop us an email.
Lovely. Thanks you very much, Will. Thanks everyone.
Carla. Thanks,
Bye-bye.
Debbie. Bye-bye.